today we're going to be making caramel corn popcorn balls. I had chatted with my grandma sitting around her kitchen table and forced her to make some estimated measurements on some recipes because I wanted to be able to make them. And even what I have written down is extremely vague. So I'm going to read this recipe to you. At the top it says 8 quarts of popcorn. That seems huge. I don't know. How much is a quart of popcorn? Again, I have no idea. The ingredients list: 2 cups brown sugar, maybe less. 2 cubes of margarine. How much is a cube? 1.5 cups of white corn syrup. Okay, that one's better. 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of butter flavoring. I don't know what butter flavoring is. I don't really know what we're going to do about that part, but we'll figure it out. Then, this is the directions I wrote down. Boil 5 minutes without stirring. Turn off heat. Add 1 teaspoon of soda. I didn't write baking soda on the list, so I assume it means baking soda. Then it says bake 1 hour at 250. Stir every 15 minutes. Use roaster pan or large cake pan. Those directions don't make any sense to me. Number 1, I think we combine all of our caramel ingredients and we're going to cook it in here. Then we add, I think this is where the turn off heat and stir comes in. We add our cooked popcorn in. Then I think we transfer that. I think we're going to actually go ahead and form them into balls at that point. Then we're going to put them in the oven at 250. But I'm not really sure. These directions are super unclear. So we're going to wing it. We're going to see what happens. If not, I think my Aunt Colette made them recently, so we might have to call in Aunt Colette for backup because hers look really good. Okay, so first we're going to make our popcorn. We're just going to turn our little skillet situation to around 350. I'm going to use avocado oil because I don't like burning my oil. This is all I have left, so this is how much I will be using. Actually, I'm going to need to add a different kind of oil because that's not enough. You need enough to coat the bottom of the pan, but not drench it. We will be adding some vegetable oil. That might be too much. So, great. Then, since I'm unclear about the amount of popcorn, I just am not 100% sure how many seeds to add. Actually, let's see. Maybe there's some better directions on here about how much this will end up. Pour 3 tablespoons. Wow, we used a lot more than that. For 1/3 cup of popcorn. Okay, so we're going to do, I'm thinking, 3/4 of a cup. This is 1/3, maybe 2/3 of a cup. Okay, also, last time I made popcorn, I learned this trick where you put 2 kernels in your oil, and when they pop, you'll know that your oil's hot enough, and then you turn off your oil, add the rest of the kernels in, turn back on your oil. That way you're not burning them, but you know it's the appropriate temperature. I think I put too much oil in here. I'm going to siphon some out. Because I only want it a little higher than the kernel, but right now I feel like they're drowning a bit. That's a lot better. Now we wait for our 2 kernels to pop. When you watch them, little tiny bubbles will come up from the kernel, and it starts to make this very slight squeaky sound, and that's how you know they're making progress and going to pop soon. They're starting to squirm. that startled me. I would recommend this style of scooper. You know, it has a nice grate. You shake off the oil, you're good to go. Once our second kernel pops, we'll know that we're hot enough. I'm going to turn this up just a bit, just past the 350 mark, because it's taking a little bit longer than normal for them to pop. Maybe it's a dud. I don't even know if that happens or could happen. Nope. Okay, there's our second one. Now we're going to add in our 2/3 of the cups of kernels. I'm going to turn off my oil. I feel like this is one of those wives' tale things where they're like, turn off your oil, add your stuff, turn your oil back on. But we're going to try it out because it worked for me the past couple times. So our oil is very hot. Okay. Oh, it's already popping. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you need to stir them a bit so you're getting in a good rotation. Make sure they're all coated with oil. Great. Then you're going to cover them because it's going to pop pretty crazy, but you need to leave some sort of air vent. Otherwise, they're going to soak up the oil instead of kind of leave you on the outside coating, I guess, is how you could think of it. It also helps if you give it a good little shake. Do not spill your oil. If you're worried about spilling your oil, don't shake it at all. Eating popcorn makes me crave Mike and Ike's or M&M's, kind of like that movie snack feel. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so we've got a few popping. So you're going to want to make sure you give them a good toss. You feel like they're cooking evenly. You're going to listen, they're going to start popping quite a bit. Once they slow back down and you get one pop about every 10 seconds, they're done. Even if you have kernels that are unpopped, they're done. You don't want the rest to burn. Oh, here's another side note that I've learned. So if you end up putting too much popcorn kernels, and as your popcorn is popping, you realize they're going to flow out of the pan, just put some sort of like tin foil or my little aerator thing here was open. Just put some sort of tin foil or something around the edges and let it pop out of the sides of the dish, because if you're running out of room, you need it to go somewhere. Okay, see how it's slowing down? We really want to pay attention right now. Engage when we want to remove it from the, turn off our heat and remove our popcorn from our oil. I'm thinking pretty quick. About now, I would say. Well, yeah, that's it. Okay, I'm going to unplug my little unit. Excellent. Remove my lid. Wonderful. Scoop it into my bowl. And be warned, they will move a bit and there's still some popping. So don't get too crazy. Watch your hands. You might want to wear maybe oven mitts if you're scared of your grease popping on you. Most of my oil is pretty absorbed, which is good. That means I have the correct amount of oil for the amount of popcorn. This ratio seems like it worked out pretty well. But if you do have a lot of grease, you're going to want to wear something on your hands and make sure, you might just want to let it sit and cool off so you don't endanger your body. But if you sit and let it cool off too long, your popcorn will start soaking up the oil. And it comes out such like a crisp, nice white color. Almost all my kernels are popped. We just have a few stragglers, which is great. Maybe we'll need 2 more bowls. I don't know, my spatial awareness is terrible. Any sort of like gift wrapping I find extremely difficult to gauge how much paper you need. Putting shoes back in the shoebox when you have to like layer them correctly, I struggle with every time. Gauging what to put in Tupperware containers, difficult. Popcorn in a bowl, difficult. If you shake it, you can get your kernels to fall out because you don't want any kernels in your popcorn balls. So that saves your popcorn ball eaters those tooth cracks that you get from when you accidentally munch on a kernel. So you just give it a good little shake, they fall through your grate in your spoon, spatula, spoon, dual purpose fried item retriever. I think it's a great name. Okay, that looks great. So this is good to go. And then we're going to go ahead and dump out. It was very hot. Watch out for any metal pieces on your skillet. I'm gonna go ahead and dump out and then just lightly wipe the inside, but it's still very hot. So just wash your hands. And it doesn't need to be super clean. It just has oil in it. We're going to be adding stuff to make caramel, so it's gonna get sticky anyway. Okay, now we're just gonna set aside our popcorn. And we're going to make our caramel, which I'm finding to be a very stressful part, but we will see how it goes. I also have seen quite a few caramel recipes that have a condensed milk, and I'm wondering why this doesn't have a condensed milk. So I think we're going to be adding some condensed milk. But who knows, maybe this was a perfected recipe and I'm just going to mess it up, but you don't know until you try. Oh, don't forget to pack in your brown sugar. You don't pack in anything else except brown sugar. So we have 1 cup. I don't have this heat turned on yet, but it's still very warm from our popcorn. Okay. That plus a little of this. Finish off the bag and we are good to go. 2 cups of brown sugar. It says 2 cubes of margarine. Oops. I don't have margarine, which I'm wondering if that's going to be like a fatal error. And for some reason I feel like it is. But instead, I don't know how much a cube is. I feel like it might have meant stick. So I'm going to go 1 full stick, because maybe she meant 2 of like those small kind. But maybe little Carly wrote it down wrong. You people who already know how to make caramel, you're probably like, Carly, what are you doing? I do not know. How do you like, so caramel's sticky, so does it stick to your pan while it cooks? Or does the stickiness quality come after it's not? We're gonna go 1.5 cups of it. My recipe says white corn syrup. I will be using light corn syrup because that's what I bought. 1 cup. Ugh. Corn syrup to me looks disgusting, and I know it's essential to this whole little operation, but it just like clear goopiness. Just the one that's in. Great. And then we're going to add in our 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna add in more of a teaspoon because I tend to like things a bit more salty. And if it ends up extra salty, you just call it salted caramel and you're good to go. So let's turn this, I'm just gonna turn it on 250. I think I'm being influenced because that's what we're supposed to bake it in the oven at later. But again, I'm not sure. It says boil for 5 minutes without stirring. I'm gonna go ahead and stir until it gets incorporated. and then ends up, once this butter melts, I'll stop stirring. And we'll time it, I guess. Ooh, this starter looks delicious. Where can you go wrong with some brown sugar and corn syrup in butter, you know? Stab, stab, stab. I'm hoping we're going by the principle that butter's always better, but I don't know. My grandma loved butter. If she wanted butter, she probably would have told me butter. Look at this. Oh, yes. You know, even if it's a fail recipe from my own Carly interpretations, I think it's still gonna taste good. My biggest concern is that we're gonna get, this will work, we'll add the popcorn, and it will be too soupy and won't like end up sticky, so our popcorn balls won't stick together. But that's not a problem, because then we'll just turn it into caramel corn and call it a perfected recipe. There's always adjustments that can be made. I'm also wondering, this seems like a lot of caramel compared to the amount of popcorn that I have, which is probably why it says 8 quarts of popcorn. But what unit of measurement, how does that help me? Like, I should have written down how many kernels to add, or how much, like, once your kernels have popped, this is how much popcorn you want to add to your caramel. But knowing my grandma, she was making this for like our entire family of 100 people, and I should be having like quadruple the amount of popcorn that I have there. But instead of changing this, we're just gonna plow ahead, as we always do. Our butter's almost melted. This looks delicious. Like, it's not caramel yet, but it's a nice color and it smells really good. Also, we were supposed to add butter flavoring, but instead of margarine, we're using real butter. And I don't know what butter flavoring is, so we're calling this a win-win in the whole no margarine department. Okay. We've incorporated our butter, and now we're going into the scary 5 minutes of it boiling, I guess. I'm gonna turn it up just a wee bit to 275. It's already starting to move. Should I add condensed milk? I'm not gonna do it. I really want to, but I already am worried it's not gonna get sticky enough, so I'm not going to. I'm thinking, this is my thought process behind it. I think the recipes I'm wondering about with the condensed milk are for a caramel candy that needs to be chewier and like more of that decadent caramel filling, whereas this, we need it to be a sticky caramel. It's not optional, it has to stick together. So we're going with no condensed milk. Oh, I'm not supposed to stir. Also, I can see in my pan how unevenly the heat is distributed, because the only parts that are boiling is one circle in the middle, which must be where this heat unit is. But you know what? It's fine. It smells like a candy shop. Also, will this pop on my face? Should I not stand that close? We've got bubbles. I'm gonna turn us down to 250 because I don't want it to burn. And I've never made it before, so I don't know what to look for if it's burning. 5 minutes, I have to, that's a long time. We might just do a few minutes because the stirring. As always, I should have told you this at the beginning, but preheat your oven to 250 degrees because I think we're supposed to be baking it after this stage. It smells so good. What's going on? Oh, it tastes delicious. I should Google How do you know if your caramel is burning? How do you make caramel? But so much more fun to just gauge it, and then you learn from next time. Also, learning this way helps you know the basics. So like if you're making some sort of candy or other recipe that has a version of caramel in it, where you're incorporating like corn syrup and brown sugar and maybe it becomes something else, you'll know what to look for, and you won't just have to follow a recipe because you know what it looks like, what it smells like, what happens. I'm gonna give this a stir because for some reason it smells like I should. Just a slight stir. Okay, I don't think it's burning. That was a good relief. I think we might want to turn it up again to that 275-ish mark because I was liking how the bubbles were looking a bit more when we were up at that higher temperature. So it's pretty bubbly, like, can you see in here? There's quite a bit of bubbles going on. It looks pretty thin, but I believe it's getting thicker as it continues to bubble. I'm also wondering, how does it cool down enough once you add in the popcorn for you to be able to touch it and form balls? Or maybe you bake it in the oven and then form it into balls, but I think that's what's supposed I think that's what it's supposed to dry it out so it sticks together. It's 58 degrees outside. Oh, I forgot to mention, the point of making caramel popcorn balls at this time is because my gran would bring them to Halloween, and she would dye some of them black and some of them orange, and it would be like Halloween themed, and sometimes she would put in like little, I think, M&Ms with like Halloween looking items on, like, you know, so it's themed more. And so we're at the week before Halloween, so it's perfect time to be making that. I'm getting another like slight little snake looking stir. It's still looking like, ooh, it's looking like we're not burning and we're getting thicker and a better color. Yeah, definitely getting thicker. It's getting that sticky feeling on your teeth. It's starting to smell. You know when you brown butter and it becomes the browner color and puts off like this nutty scent? That's what I'm getting from this, and it smells delicious. And I think is a good indicator that we're on the right track. Yeah, see how it's just getting a little thicker? Wow, I really wish I would have bought apples and we could have made caramel apples too. What a missed opportunity, am I right? Maybe I have apples. Negative, Ghost Rider. I wish you could smell my house right now. Okay, so we should probably prepare our little oven pan. I'm just using a large cookie sheet. I'm going to put foil on top just in case something goes astray because I don't want the caramel like burning onto my pan. Just going to continue to do that smell check. Oh, that's looking good. Okay, we'll give it one more minute. Have you guys seen? So this is the normal pan, but they have this baking pan, and it just has like a slightly sweet scent. It doesn't give off as much as like your traditional cooking pan scent, which I think is perfect because we're having a sweet dish. So I'm gonna spray this onto the pan. Also, something that's kind of weird is it looks foamy. I am thinking when we form our balls, I don't know if I'm gonna do that now or later. I haven't decided. We're gonna wing it. We need to spray our hands so they don't stick. I might wear gloves and then spray my hands. Again, I'm undecided. Okay. I just am not sure how thick I want it. Or like maybe it's at its ultimate thickness and it's not gonna get thicker. Or maybe we don't want it very thick. It's so fun to move around because it has so many air bubbles. It's a liquid, but it leaves a little stripe when you move it, as if it has some sort of solid aspect. Kind of gives me like moon sand vibes, you know? been over 5 minutes. I'm thinking we commit. Let's turn off our heat. I'm gonna let mine sit for just a few minutes because I just don't want it to be super hot when I add in the popcorn. And I'm also wondering if we just let it sit, it might get a little tackier, which I think is what we're going for. Don't burn your hands. Oh, it's sticky. We have made some very sticky caramel. It's gonna be too sticky, I think. It like immediately adhered, stuck to my teeth. Which is fine if everyone has chomper teeth like me. But for our filling-filled friends, might not work best. We'll see how it works out. Okay, we still got some bubbles. Let's just add in our first lump of popcorn. We're gonna stir it in. This seems like a poor technique. Okay, this is random, but down here, it's still pretty tacky. So maybe that's a better sign. Ooh, yum. Okay. Very difficult to stir, which is fine. We are people who can adapt. As soon as I added the popcorn, all the bubbles disappeared from our caramel. This seems like plenty of popcorn compared to the amount of caramel. I was very worried we were gonna have like soggy popcorn, but no. I'm also thinking this would be the perfect time to form it into balls and then put it in the oven. Yes. Make sure you get it all stirred in, and then you can decide whether you want to add more popcorn, depending on how much caramel you currently have in there. I want it to be a fully coated popcorn with no kernels left untouched. You know what I'm saying? It smells like a bakery or a sweet shop. I love it so much. I want to make caramel every day just so I can have this scent. Okay, I'm thinking we can add in a bit more popcorn. Maybe not this whole bowl, but a good shake. Okay, just be warned, every time you touch it, it's going to be way hotter than you expect, and it will burn your finger. For some reason, I have a ton of caramel in this corner that is not incorporated into my popcorn. Yeah, that's good. Wow, it tastes delicious. And just like I remember. I'm tired. But we are not the faint of heart. Ooh, we are also flinging caramelized popcorn everywhere. We might just be just about there. Oh yes, and I remember my grandma's having these like strings. See how it looks? It looks hairy. That is what I remember it looking like. So we must be at a good level of tackiness, you know, on a whim. Okay, I I'm going to put gloves on, spray my gloves, ball them up, put them in the oven. The gloves could be a bad decision because it might stick even more, but we'll try them out first. If not, we will adjust. I want to give them a very solid spray of pan because I don't want any sticking in here. Ooh, it's still hot. Look it! We got a little popcorn ball. How happy. Maybe they don't even need to go in the oven. I'm not sure what the part of the oven is. I'm wondering if it's if you don't do a popcorn ball, like if you're just making caramel corn, so then it kind of dries out. I love them so much. Okay. But maybe not. Maybe it's essential to the architect of the popcorn. Ooh, it's so toasty. Don't burn your hands. Don't say, oh, Carly did it, so I'm going to do it. No, no. If it's too hot for your hands, don't, just wait a few minutes for it to cool down. But I'm a gal who likes to just keep going. I kind of want, so I'm thinking, like, you need a good ball size. That way, it's like enough that someone would want to eat it, but not too much that they won't pick it up from like a serving tray because it looks overwhelming or it'll be too messy. So just like a good, slightly smaller than a baseball in my head. A good like palm size, I would say. Wow, this makes a lot more balls than I was expecting. I was thinking it was gonna make like 10 or maybe 10, but I think we're gonna get maybe 20. But I think only 12 are gonna fit on my tray. Ooh, this one has quite a bit of caramel. But this glove technique with this pan, excellent. No sticking at all, very comfortable and very happy with that decision. I do have a few kernels in here, so you'll probably want to go ahead and be a bit more diligent than I was about shaking them out when you pick up your popcorn originally. People are just going to have to watch out for their teeth. Cooking for holidays just makes things so much more exciting. So like right now, if I weren't cooking, I wouldn't be thinking about Halloween, wouldn't be planning for it. And anticipation is, I would say, over half of the fun. So if you give yourself things to do in anticipation of a fun event, it just makes life more fun. So if you kind of end up feeling like, oh, you just show up at things and like it's fun while you're there, but maybe there's, like maybe you're missing out on something or you don't understand why so many people love particular things, but you're just not getting the joy, maybe you should try like coming up with something ahead of time that you could contribute. Like maybe it's not cooking, maybe it's a game or an activity, or you want to go shopping for the perfect outfit for whatever activity it is. That might help you kind of get pre-gamed, if you will, for whatever the event is. This has a very large chunk of caramel on the side, so I'm just going to stick some more because I just don't want it to get super hard. Okay, we're going to need another pan. I get to line it with foil just in case. Okay guys, I'm thinking we don't need to cook it in the oven. I'm going to let them sit and then decide if that was essential or not. When you're making the balls, you don't want to pack them too close together because it will make it harder to eat. So like you want it to be tight but not stuck. Like you want to be able to take a bite and have it pull apart. You know what I'm saying? No teeth breaking here. Also, I added more salt than what the recipe called for. popcorn, I don't find it particularly salty. So you could probably add even more if you wanted to do salted caramel, or if you did like flaky sea salt chunks, would be delicious. Yum, we're gonna have a little baby one. Okay, so this made 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 little balls. And I'm gonna wait a few minutes and decide if it needs to go in the oven or not. Okay, so here's the rundown of what we just did and what ended up working best. So my full vote, I didn't bake them. They're very firm, they look great, there's no need. So we ended up using 2/3 cup popcorn kernels. We filled our skillet up just higher than the layer of popcorn kernels. We let those pop, we removed them from the skillet. Then we added in 2 cups of packed brown sugar. We added 1.5 cups of light corn syrup. We added 2 to 3 teaspoons of salt, depending on your preference. Then, what else did we add? We also added 1/2 cup of butter. Using that, we stirred it up until everything was completely incorporated. Once it was fully stirred, we left it sitting for 6 minutes. I lightly stirred it during, but in reality, you should completely untouch it while it boils. The temperature was around 275. That seemed like it worked best. Once the caramel had boiled for about 6 minutes, we turned off the heat. We let it sit for a few minutes until it was mostly done bubbling. Then we incorporated our popped popcorn slowly. I didn't end up using all of it, so you might have about 1 to 2 cups left, which put some butter on that and eat it as a snack. Once we incorporated our popcorn into the caramel, then we stirred it up, and you need to make sure each popcorn kernel is fully coated, and incorporate the popcorn into the caramel slowly because it'll make it easier to stir. Once that was done, we let it sit for just a few minutes. Then we used gloves with baking Pam sprayed on them. We just used a wooden spoon in order to put that in our hands to roll them, to form them into popcorn balls. They're about baseball size, maybe slightly smaller, which I think is a good size for guests at a party to pick up and munch on without it being too much or too little, easy to eat. They have a very, very good consistency, so it's like still a chewy caramel, but firm enough to stick together. Their taste delicious. Let me know if you try this recipe. I would love to hear about it. If you want them Halloween themed, just separate. Once you get to the mixed caramel and popcorn stage, separate into 2 bowls. Then you're gonna have half in each bowl. Add black food coloring to one, orange to another, and then incorporate. And then you'll make your individual balls, and you'll have like a Halloween themed popcorn ball, which is what we grew up having quite a bit. Also, it's versatile. You could make it Christmas themed or Easter themed or whatever you're feeling. These are like your classic color, mostly because I wanted to know what the color of our caramel ended up looking like, so we would know we were on the right track. I hope you enjoy.